Scott Birch here, and I am the Simple Tecton. It has been a year and 2 months since I dropped my part 3 of this Harbor Freight Dust Collector Frankenstein series. Guess what? There was a part 4, but I lost the videos, and only recently did I recover them. So I need to finish what I started. You see, in part 3, I covered this wind filter, the plenum box, and how they connect to the motor. But I never covered this Oneida Super Dust Deputy and how to connect it to the wall and to the dust barrel. Additionally, there's one more part after that. I didn't cover how I connected the remote switch. Well, let's go through this part 4, or we could call it the Lost series of this Harbor Freight Dust Collector Frankenstein build. So let's take on the challenge. And here we go. It's time to build the bracket for the Dust Deputy. Like all the rest of the construction, I'm going to be using half laps. You can see all the dust kicking out behind there by my right hand while I'm cutting these half laps. That just shows that my little shop vac's not keeping up with this cabinet saw. Hence the reason me building a larger dust collector. Here I'm doing the layout for the holes that will receive those bolts that are going to hold the Dust Deputy. I'm trying to keep these arms together for this bracket, so as I mark these layout lines, they'll be equal when the bracket's put together. Well, I'm going to head back to the old faithful shopsmith, hog out most of this hole. This system works out pretty well. The only thing I ran into is the drill bit wasn't long enough to go all the way through each one of these arms. So I made marks from one side to the other to make sure that I knew how far I needed to go and kept a good reference on the fence. And the holes met up really well. After I got both arms done, it was time to get to the bench and knock out some of this leftover material here with a chisel and a rasp. The chisel was pretty easy to manage while holding the stock down, but when I got that rasp, it got a little squirrely, so pulled out some clamps and clamped it down. That's right, you're going nowhere. Success. Time to glue up some half laps again. I decided to go and use a little dab of CA glue for right now. Hold these pieces together because later on I clamped them and let them sit overnight to make sure they had a good tight hold. Here are the right and left arms of the bracket. Right now I'm going to glue on this back piece. I'm sure you noticed that the front end of both of these brackets have a round over. I kind of did that off camera. I don't think you need to see me run my belt sander again. Here I'm clamping in a spacer piece in the front half of the bracket. That piece won't be glued in. It's only being used to square up the entire piece. And that back piece I'm clamping right now, that's actually going to be glued in. Grab the square and start adjusting that back piece right there by using that front spacer. Depending on where I tap it, I can make it spread or I can make it more narrow. One more check. Clean a little glue. No, wait, one more check, and it's good. The next day I took it out of the clamps. And I did exactly what I do every other time. I added some dowels. Sure, half laps are strong, and really, holding up the dust deputy is not a big task, but I just want to make sure. So, dowels it is. This piece of plywood is going to be the back support, which is going to hold up the whole bracket. Right now I'm marking out the slotted holes where I'm going to use bolts to secure the whole bracket to the wall. The slots will allow me to adjust the height of the whole bracket so that I can adjust the dust deputy to the actual dust bucket. You'll see what I'm talking about here in a little bit. Just enjoy this shopsmith time. And painted. Now it's time to put that back support on the bracket. While I'm finishing up this glue up, if you'll notice at the corner where the back brace at the bottom there and the arm meet, I had to put a 45-degree support just to make it a little more rigid than what it was. Let's get this thing hung up. I'm not going to tighten down the bolts. I'm really just going to put them in there finger tight and not adjust the height of it until I have the dust deputy attached. Here's the lid to the dust drum. If you'll notice, I did a little bit of an epoxy pour here. Not sure how this is going to work out, but what I needed is a flat surface right here, because see, it dipped in. Not only on this side, but also on the other. That way I can run those bolts through when I attach the dust deputy on the top. Speaking of which, here's the top. I'm just going to mark it out with a Sharpie here and get ready to make some holes. Was it crucial that all these holes be drilled with a drill press of any sort? Not really. Did they need to be perfectly straight up and down? No. But since I have one, I'm going to use it. I'm sure all of us have a weak point when it comes to power tools. Mine is a jigsaw. I couldn't cut a straight line, a crooked line, a wavy line. I don't know. It's just not my thing. I'm just happy I kept it sorta on the line, in the circle, maybe. So there's a gasket that goes between the dust deputy and the lid of this dust bin, and then it's cinched down with all these bolts. You're going to notice here in a little bit, I'm going to skip a bolt. In fact, the hole's still there. You'll see what all that's about here soon. But dadgum, that's a lot of bolts. Alright, so here are those bolts I was talking about. Once I get it up there, they're going to fit right through those holes that I slotted out earlier. And then I have some star knobs that I'm going to cinch down on either side. And those star knobs will also allow an adjustability too. With the dust barrel lift at its fullest height and the dust barrel on top of that, I can now adjust the bracket that holds the dust deputy in place. Once level is achieved, all I have to do is cinch down those bolts in those mortise slots that I made earlier. Making sense now? Alright, here's the obligatory I'm not an electrician. So basically at this point, you're on your own. I bought a heavy duty extension cord, a remote switch, and this outdoor electrical box. And this is how I put it together. Actually, this is a pretty darn simple switch. In order to adhere it to the back of this junction box, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this really sticky, double-sided sticky stuff. I don't remember what it is or what kind it is. All I know is when it's stuck, it's stuck. Darn thing is so hard to get off. Dadgummit. About ready to get aggravated here. And there you go. You saw me drill the holes for the cables earlier. This particular hole, it's for the RF antenna that pokes out there. Nothing said that I had to do that, but I would assume that if you left it inside the box, it might not operate the way you wanted it to. Again, I'm not an electrician, but this is what worked for me. You'll notice in there it says input, output. Wires come in, connected to the input. Wires go out from the output. And that's connected to your machine. Once you're neutral and your hot wire connected correctly, you want to make sure that your ground is connected to your ground, not to the switch. Here it is completed. I'm going to have to turn this up so y'all can see it. And here it is. Just like it says, the input's coming from the wall socket and the output's going to the machine. And the ground is connected to the ground. So the end of the video was kind of abrupt. I get it. There was probably a video I lost, but I can't recreate it, and honestly, I don't want to. So what's left on the video that I didn't get? It's really the simple stuff. I showed you how to put the switch together. Well, the part that I didn't have in there was the part that talked about connecting this box to this plywood extension, which is the backer to this bracket, which holds the motor and the plenum box. I purposely made it a little bit longer so I could attach this box here. And then I simply plugged in the motor and ran a wire to another plug right up here that I ran straight from my electrical box. It's not that hard, pretty simple, and it worked out pretty well. Well, there you have it. The series is complete. The Harbor Freight Dust Collector Frankenstein has been built. Well, it's really been built for over a year now, but this series is complete. You now know all the ins and outs of this piece of equipment. I would like to put a small video together to kind of go over like a year-end review, which will probably be more like a year and 3 months review, to kind of show you the things that I did like and the things I don't like about this build. Overall though, I will say, I'm pretty happy with it. If you have any questions, go ahead and drop a few comments down below. And also, if you really like it, go ahead and subscribe, hit the like button so you get notified when the next videos hit. And yes, there are more videos to come. We're not going to wait another year. Again, my name is Scott Burge, and I am the Simple Tecton.